For about 7 months now, I have been off pretty much all of social media. Now, I say pretty much because I do classify YouTube as a social media network. Sure, it may be more video focused, but I would definitely say that YouTube is 100% a social media website. I do think that social media can do a lot of great things. I mean, we've all heard the stories. Somebody had a terminal illness, and a bunch of people came to heard about it, came together, and raised a bunch of money for that. That's good stuff. I know somebody who met this guy from Australia, and like, what the fuck? Like, I've never spoken to anybody who was in Australia, and they became friends, and he flew him over to our country, and we got to meet this guy. Cool stuff like that. But everybody knows the bad parts of social media. Do I even really need to go into it? Well, no. But I'm going to talk about why I got off of social media for the most part. So it's interesting. When I moved into my new place, I didn't have internet access for a week. And that's kind of when I realized how much time I spent on my phone looking at dumb bullshit that doesn't matter. Now, dumb bullshit can be fun, right? Yeah, the occasional memes are pretty cool to look at or funny or whatever. But honestly, for the most part, I feel that it's just garbage. Like, getting on social media a lot of times felt like digging through a trash can. And nobody's throwing away diamonds. They're throwing away, shitty food and all that. So during this whole week of no internet access, I mean, thankfully I had games on my PC and games on a modified original Xbox, and I was just having the time of my life. I played through Halo 1 and 2 and Ninja Gaiden Black and the first Mech Assault. I was having such a good time. Then as the week went on, I finally got internet. And I remember the day I got internet, it was January 20th. And that's a notable day because that is when the President of the United States was inaugurated. And oh boy, a whole week of not being on social media whatsoever, and then getting on, Twitter on that fucking day, it was just a nightmare. Everybody had a doom and gloom mindset. Everybody was just miserable. It seemed like the world was coming to an end. The worst catastrophe to ever happen just happened. Meanwhile, I just lived a totally normal life for about a week. I got a radio, so I was able to listen to my sports. That's listen to some of my teams that were playing at around that time. And I was just living my life. I really did not care too much about the real world at that moment. I would go to work, come home, play some video games for a little bit, and then whenever hockey was on, I would just turn on my portable radio, stick it in the corner of, of my room or whatever, and be cooking food and listening to the Avalanche or some shit like that, None of the content was ever worth my time. It was just dumb bullshit, and I just did not see a reason to have it. I had 5 ways to communicate with people, and I barely used 4 of them. I got my normal phone, just text and call. That's pretty much my main way of communication. I have 5 apps, 4 apps, or something, whatever, of communication, but I don't use them to talk to people. Like sending somebody a meme that they're going to forget about in 2 seconds, that's not communicating. I'm not going to be like one of these guys that comes out and says, you have to do everything that makes you better, otherwise you're a bitch. I don't believe that. I think that's just a bunch of propaganda. And it's, a lot of people who say stuff like that, they are probably the most miserable people out there. And I wouldn't want to talk to any of them. In fact, quite frankly, I don't really want to talk to most people to begin with. It took a couple weeks of me being on social media to really be like, okay, I gotta get off this shit. Like this is just all I feel. Like all I felt at that time was it felt like the hooks were in my back, and I was constantly getting clawed back into this shit. When I knew, I'm like, this just isn't good. This just isn't worth my time. It is a shame that this is one of the biggest ways that people meet, but oftentimes it's for a bad thing. And I mean bad thing like as in, you meet somebody you hate. You hear something that they say and you just hate them. It's kind of funny to me because a lot of my friends wish I was on social media still so they could send me memes and shit like that. But really, I just don't. I just don't even see the point. I'm not a big meme guy to begin with. I think it's lazy humor. I think it's just an easy way to get a laugh out of somebody. It's not like reciting a joke that takes time and effort and a punchline. It's just dumb bullshit. I don't know if there's really science to back this up, but it just seems to me that my friends who are definitely far more into social media than I ever was, I'm talking people who get into like arguments on Twitter and bullshit like that. I look at them and I'm just like, I know I'm happier than you. Like, I don't let this dumb bullshit bother me. I don't know if that story really is going to help anybody or anything, but I don't know. This is something I've been wanting to discuss for a while. I obviously wanted to give it enough time to really prove that, like, yes, I think this is better for me. And I do think it would be better for most people to, I know the phrase is touch grass, but, you know, don't live, you don't exist on the internet. You exist in the real world. You got to zoom out. That's all I really have to say about this. I just kind of want to talk about it for a minute. And I wanted to make this video for a while, but I really wanted to give it time to see how I really felt about everything. That's all I got to say. I'll see you later.